Live 95.1 presents Youth on the Rise. Youth on the Rise. A radio show by the youth for the youth. Join your hosts Craige Hardel and Tanya Elias as we shed light on pertinent topics at the cornerstone of our lives and our nation. Tune in to hear our guests every Monday night from 8 to 9 p.m. as we impart knowledge and guidance to our listeners. Don't forget, every Monday night from 8 to 9 p.m. on Live 95.1 FM. Youth on the Rise. Good evening, listeners from Choiseul, St.Lucia, and online. Welcome to another episode of Youth on the Rise. Again, I am your host, Craige Hardel, and this evening we have a very special guest with us by the name of Mr. Henderson Seale. And he's actually an author, and he's the author of the book called Choices, Making an Informed Decision on Parenting. Now, listeners, this evening, parenting is the focus. And really, the issue of parenting is an issue for most. And especially as we live in a culture where we, as third world countries, especially St. Lucia, are influenced by many cultures outside of us. Okay? Of course, yes, we have some control as a nation. However, we are very vulnerable to the shocks, to the external shocks that happened around. And yet, we may get some parenting material. However, it is always from an international perspective and not really broadened and tailored to us, Caribbean people, St. Lucian people. Again, people, I'd like to welcome my guest this evening, Mr. Henderson Seale. Good evening, Mr. Seale.
Good evening, Craige. How are you?
I'm well. And to get this segment rolling, Mr. Seale, a very interesting phenomenon. But to begin, we are going to begin on one issue here. The issue of foster parenting and adopted children. Many of us actually don't know the difference. And I actually asked a few people the difference. And it alarmed me that a lot of people actually do not know what foster parent is, what an adopted child. Okay? Again, yes, they know what one is, but they confuse them. So can you please differentiate the two for us?
In foster care, this is a system by which a certified standing parent cares for minor children or teenagers who've been removed from their birth parents or other custodial adults by the state's authority. In certain cases, the mother or father may have died and the other parent may not be present. Responsibility for the young person is assumed by the relevant governmental authority or until a suitable placement with another family is found. There can also be situations where there are voluntary foster parent situations where people, they know of a child who has gone through some distress, they're not with a family, and they agree to want to foster parent the child. So they will approach the appropriate agency, they'll go through all of the channels, all of the necessary checks and balances are supposed to be carried out, and then the child is enveloped into that family.
Very interesting. So, when you look at children and the values that parents should instill in them, what are some of these foundational values?
A lot of the foundational values have always been there, but for those especially who are spiritual, they come from a biblical background. They come through a lot of the quote-unquote commandments that we read about. Not stealing, not being jealous of somebody and what they have, not lying, being respectful to other people, especially the older people, trying to live a balanced lifestyle, and most of all, trying to find some comfort, some peace in God Himself. Most of these come the moral values which most people held on to, and today which many people still cling to achieve that kind of equilibrium and balance.
Now, I want to focus on one of them that you actually mentioned,
Okay,
and that is actually um, stealing, particular,
okay,
um, because as much as we are in economic turmoil, and yes, the recession and really drought has passed, but as we know, unemployment is rampant, and there are a lot of people with the frustration of not finding jobs. I remember seeing on the news recently someone stealing something and complaining that um, there's no work. We all know of the guy who um, attempted to break into someone's house and he got tied and he got beaten. Remember that story?
yeah, I remember.
And as much as he did that, one would always have to ask where his values came from and what would actually cause an individual to do that. Because I'm sure there are people listening and they are frustrated. Again, people not necessarily who have that mentality,
Hmm.
but also people who, in the frustration, in the responsibilities that they have, really, they have no choice. I'd like us to really speak to those people. And what can they do? What can they do to really avoid even adopting such a mindset?
First of all, to have real hope,
Mm-hmm.
you have to have some kind of spiritual uh, embodiment, whether it is through prayer, whether it is through counseling, whether it is through conversing with a friend who actually has a spiritual foundation. You actually need to have that kind of spiritual embodiment first. Spiritual embodiment teaches, first of all, respect for others, respect for self. It also teaches you that God is all in all. So you cannot help God to do something. God has to help you. A lot of people rush off and they say, God, I want a car. And then they run and they go and they play the lottery,
Mm-hmm.
saying, maybe this is the way God will help me. But you can't help God. God has to help you. So that's the first thing that needs to be emphasized. The second thing that needs to be emphasized is that love by others and for others and for yourself is part of that whole embodiment of spiritual foundation. Because if you live in a society where at night, during the day, you go to work, you see a lot of friends, you can communicate,
Mm-hmm.
and all is nice and dandy. But when you get home at night and you're lonely in your little box or your house,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nothing else other than watching TV, and you do not have a spiritual foundation and grounding, then a lot of people suffer a lot of hurt because they're lonely.
Yes.
Loneliness will drive you to do a lot of things. The old people always used to say, idle hands is the devil's workshop. And if you look around, it is very true. Out of a lot of loneliness and idleness comes a lot of, well, I don't want to say crime, but comes a lot of inactivity that leads people to sit down and consider what am I going to do next. And most times the projection is crime. I'll give you an example of how we can be resourceful and industrious. There was a young lad in Barbados last year. His name was Shaquem Coggins. We used to call him the snail man. Shaquem was only about 13, 14 years old. And we had a program back in Barbados where people were picking up snails
Mm-hmm.
and they would be paid, I think it was, I think it was $2 per pound. So they would pick up these sacks and sacks and sacks of snails. They would carry them to the Ministry of Agriculture and they'd get them weighed and they'll get a receipt and then they'll go back and collect their money. Shaquem worked picking up snails. Everybody used to call him the snail man. Out of picking up snails, he actually bought his visa, his plane ticket. Bought his mother a plane ticket.
Mm-hmm.
They went to the USA. He actually bought barrels of food and brought back down.
Oh wow.
And after all of that, he
Mm.
actually bought clothes and shoes for his family. Now that's somebody that's industrious. How many people will think of something like that? So you don't necessarily have to go. That's an area where there was an opportunity and he seized the opportunity. There are lots of areas where people can seize opportunities, but a lot of people don't have the necessary direction and guidance to fulfill a lot of these opportunities. I will share something simple with you. Journée Creole is supposed to be one of our premier events or premier celebrations in the country. But people see Journée Creole as either 1 week or 1 day affair. It should be more than that. It should be an affair that you actually celebrate for a whole month, 2 months, 3 months. Because the more you celebrate it, the longer you celebrate it, the more people get to appreciate the type of event it is, the sincerity of the event, the nature of the event. And I find that too often, too little preparations go into these things. So if you had an event like that that was celebrated for a while, people can see the opportunity to make money from selling food, selling clothes, selling little knickknacks that you can stick on or pin on your dress and emblems. They can actually make money off of having a festival out of it. A real festival where you expose the arts. And when I say the arts, I don't necessarily mean something that is out of our culture. I mean what is relevant in our culture to that particular setting. These are things that need to be propagated more so from the school's point of view. But where I am very disappointed is that a lot of this type of the culture is forced on our children. And when they look at the adults wear no Creole wear, no Madras wear. They participate in things as though it's a party. If they wear clothes that are supposed to be for the event, it doesn't look anything like what it's supposed to look like. They make it look like what they want it to look like. So children in reality, when they look, they see hypocrisy. And as a result, when they grow up, they just throw it away because there's no sincerity about it. Part of the problem with parenting and relating to that is that when children look around and see what a lot of their parents do, they're very turned off and disillusioned because there's no syncing, there's no synergy as such.
Yes.
And this is where a lot of the problem comes in. Take, for example, and I'll finish this point just now. Take, for example, the issue of church. There are a lot of people who send their children to church, but they themselves do not go to church with the children.
Yeah.
And when the children see that, when they see an opportunity at 14 or 15 or 16 to stop going to church, they do just that. And they will tell you, but my mother doesn't go, my father doesn't go, so why should I go?
And we are coming to the religious section in a bit. But again, you emphasizing that many adults, those who complain, those who really are fed up and tend to resort to things like stealing or think of resorting to these measures. A lot of them is because they don't see the opportunities that are there,
No,
or they're not willing to.
no.
And they really, again, you reference some examples of your time in Barbados and of what is the guy's name?
Shaquille Coggins, the snail man.
Yeah, the who actually picked up steals and you actually paid some money of that.
Yeah,
And for
quite a
me,
bit.
the idea there is the opportunity
Quite a
and
bit.
making the most of it. And we really need to have that mindset, people. Sometimes we really, sometimes we complain, we blame others, but really we don't realize the problem is with us and with the way that we view the world, the way that we view what's out there. And it's the onus is on us, really to make things happen. So that is a very, very strong one. Um, Before I proceed, listeners, remember that this is a call-in program. If anyone's listening and they would like to add their voice, their input to our discussion, the number to reach us is 714-5574. Again, the number to reach us would be 714-5574. Again, we are reachable via WhatsApp as well, so we do accept WhatsApp messages. Mr. Seal, I want to move on to the issue of corporal punishment. And it is a ticklish one because many parents now say that they're not sure whether to beat the children, not beat them anymore. Many parents say that sometimes they discipline the children and people have come to them and tell them to not to discipline the children. as they do, and they used to do it, or it was acceptable in the time. Many parents say that within the schools, teachers are uncertain. Again, some of them are even afraid to actually discipline the children, and they are unsure of the proper methods of actually disciplining the children. What is your take on that?
Okay, let me look first at why there is the need for corporal punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, before you get to that, let me look for the differentiation between discipline and punishment. And I think this is where a lot of people have not made the differentiation. You can punish a child and you can discipline a child. Punishment does not necessarily mean corporal punishment, but it can include corporal punishment. And then there's discipline, which is teaching a child what you should not do A, B, C, or D.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, let's look at punishment. Years ago, I was in a relationship with a young lady who had 4 children. None of them were mine. And I watched how she would punish the children.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, they were laughing at her. She would, the oldest was 15, the youngest was 10. Some evenings she would say, go to your room and don't come back out. All from them go to their bedroom, they play inside the bedroom, they find their time to do their own thing inside of the bedroom. So for me, that was never punishment
Mm-hmm.
because they were finding a way to make fun out of what was supposed to be punishment.
Yeah.
It got serious and I sat down and I spoke to her and I said to her, look, in your form of punishment, they are laughing, actually laughing at you. And it's not, you're not achieving what you're supposed to achieve. So let's try a couple of things that are different. Yeah, we introduced lashes. And it was lashes with a bamboo. I know bamboo doesn't hit the easy.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a lot of that. There was just a little bit. Because ironically, when they got the first couple of lashes, they realized mommy not joking. So they learned very quickly how to behave themselves. It was not a case of a brutal beating or anything of the sort, but it was just a reminder, look, if you don't behave yourself, this is what the consequence will be.
Yeah.
No longer will you be allowed to go in a bedroom and shut up and sit down and play and do, and enjoy yourself, because basically that's what they were doing. So punishment and corporal punishment, they can be incorporated, but you have to know how to blend the two, and it has to be age specific.
Yes.
The same way you punish a 3-year-old, you can't punish a 10-year-old. The same way you punish a 10-year-old, you can't punish a 16-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to use a little bit of wisdom, and it has to be age specific. I watch sometimes in horror where corporal punishment, quote unquote, is administered especially by a lot of young mothers because a child doesn't do what they want them to do at that point in time. And what happens, it is more, as far as I'm concerned, abuse than it is corporal punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know, I could be wrong, but what I see when that happens is a reflection of, you know what? Your father did me something, and I can't get back at him, so you will take the blows. Because there's sometimes simple inferences. You tell a child, come along, and the child is taking its time. So why can't you go and hold the child's hand and coax the child and mentor the child and be a good coach to the child and say, come along, darling, let's go home. Why does it have to be the first thing you see you take up and hit the child? Why?
Yeah. It's almost like it's instinctual.
But that's what I'm saying. You understand? Sometimes I saw an instance this year earlier, in a store I was in, and this young lady was buying some clothes, and she said to her daughter, the daughter could not be no more than 4 or 5 years, go and sit down over there on the bench. There was a bench in the shoe section.
Mm-hmm.
And the child stood up and looked at her and smiled. She said, but I tell you, go and sit down now. And the child stood up and looked at her and smiled. And she came across by the child, and next thing the child got one punch in the stomach. And I said, but what is the need for that? Why can't, but again, I guarantee you, if you look into the background,
Mm-hmm.
the relationship between the parent and the child at home is not necessarily a pretty one. And if you look a little further, the relationship between her as a parent, her partner, if her partner lives home or the child's father, is not necessarily a rosy one. Because in a relationship that is loving, most times when you say to a child something, that's what they're accustomed to at home, so they will normally generally obey. So I see that when it comes to corporal punishment. There's a need for examining the backgrounds on which it is administered. Sometimes it's out of pure frustration. Sometimes it can be out of this kind of frustration where I command you to do so and so, and because you don't obey me, well, I'll take it out on you and show you who's boss. I don't think children need that. I think we need, especially as adults, to be a little bit more loving and mentoring and
So, let's get a bit more age specific. And yeah, what you're saying is very true actually. So, you mentioned 10-year-old, 15-year-old. What are the differences in modes of punishment? How do you think a parent should tackle, say, your child doing? Again, it depends on, of course, the severity of what the
it
child
depends on
did.
the situation.
Yeah.
But you will find a child that is, let's say 15,
Uh-huh.
maybe being in a defiant mode.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It is, I'm with my peers and they say their parents don't do this, so I'm going to show you that
Yeah.
I'm not going to do what I'm going to do. In that particular perspective, you have to be firm. You have to be very firm. And you have to make them understand. Let me tell you, I do not want to go as far as doing so and so, but if I have to, I will, because you need to understand. Not only am I in charge, but I am responsible for you, and I want you to do the correct thing. So they need to understand from their perspective as children that, I need to respect my mother or father because they're the person in charge. If anything goes wrong, these are the people who are responsible and who have to answer for you. When you get a child that's, let's say, 3 or 4, you really don't get a lot of defiance. What you may find is because the relationship between the child and yourself is not a natural bond, you get certain certain elements coming out which are saying, I need attention. Now, where we have gone wrong in a lot of cases, you have a lot of parents who wait until the child is outside of the womb to start dealing with the child. A child can hear you inside the womb. A child can understand you inside of the womb. But we wait most of the times until the child gets out of the womb to start dealing with the child. And I think this is, in a lot of cases, this is where we have gone wrong. We try to catch the horse when it's bolted from the stable. Because if you watch it carefully, if you listen to a lot of loud music or a lot of, let's say, soca music, when the child is born, that's what they're accustomed to inside of the womb. That's what they want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
You understand? If you drink, this is a bad example to give, but if you drink a lot of rum when you're pregnant,
Yep. Yep.
when the child is born, the child will be an addicted rum baby.
Yeah. Again, science has shown that, and that's actually very, very interesting, though.
Yeah.
The habits that a parent, mother in particular, adopts during the child's pregnancy, during that gestation period
Yeah.
for the child. The child ends up, upon appearing on this earth, adopting them.
Yeah. That is
Yeah.
a fact. And they can hear you. I know of a personal experience where
Uh-huh.
when my daughter was born and I went to see my daughter at the hospital, when I entered the room she was in, she was literally screaming her head off. And I went and washed my hands. I picked her. I called her name and I said, Daddy is here. And she stopped crying. And the nurse looked at me as though, what kind of magic is this? But it's because I was accustomed talking to her when she was in the womb, so she knew my voice. I was accustomed singing to her, so she knew my voice. So having heard my voice, she said, well, there's no need to cry.
Wow. Very, very interesting, though. Very, because sometimes a lot of parents wonder why their children go astray.
Yeah.
They wonder why children do certain things, and they don't realize that it really comes down to how they treat their children and the relationship, not just between themselves and their children, but what mirrors from themselves, whether it's mother or father, and the partner,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because that filters down. Again, the way a child acts is a direct relation to what goes on at home
Yes.
and what they are actually familiar with.
Yes.
So Upon disciplining children, when some methods are ineffective and you are shocked, that it may not be effective at home either. And probably in public you may try to make it look that way, or you may be trying to oppress something upon the child, and the child won't follow because you're not a role model to them.
Right.
And that really needs emphasis. That deserves a lot of attention because we parents believe that the child is just supposed to follow. And yes, rightly, you're in charge of them, as you said a while ago. But really, it has to come from a place of example. It has to come from a place of leadership. Really, you have to be that role model for your child. Doesn't mean your child cannot have a role model and look up to somebody else, but that child should look up to you,
Yes.
regardless.
Yes.
You should be one of the main, if not the main role models of that child. A lot of successful people tell you who are their role models. Yes, they have people in their fields who they aspire to be like, who had some measure of success that they themselves had or they themselves are trying to get to. But a lot of times it's the parents,
That's all
and
it is.
they are very thankful for they are bringing the way they were treated, even when they were disciplined. They are very thankful for that, and that is really missing, and that real understanding of that bond between parent and child. In other words, if the child is being disciplined, the child on a fundamental level really understands the why. So again, parents love to discipline children just for the sake of it. That's what that is really missing.
You see, if you look at the issue of discipline,
Mm-hmm.
let's look at music, for instance. If you have an orchestra and everybody isn't playing the same thing, you will have disharmony. Now, it takes discipline for each one of them to play each note they're supposed to play with the timing that they're supposed to play at the exact moment they're supposed to play.
Mm-hmm.
Discipline is saying, I've trained myself that I will do this to achieve harmony. That's all discipline is. So if you think that discipline is administering corporal punishment alone, then we have dropped the ball. We have lost the vision. The vision must be, I want my child, when she passes the road, to say good morning to everybody she meets. I want my child that when they go to school, they will sit down and pay attention and they will listen to the teacher. And if they have a problem, they'll put their hand up in the air, ask their question, and have their question answered. That is discipline. Discipline is not what some people think of taking up a belt or taking up a rod and flogging a child. It has to be more than that. It has to be saying to the child, this is the path I want you to go on. These are the reasons why I want you to go on that path. And if you do this, here's an example of what will happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
That is what discipline is as far as I'm concerned. Corporal punishment, on the other hand, is something completely different. And it has, like I said, to be age specific and situation specific.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, if a child defies you in the road, you don't necessarily need to administer corporal punishment in a crowded setting for everybody to see. Because then you embarrass the child in front of a whole crowd. You can administer corporal punishment when the child gets home. Sit down and talk to them first and say, look, I am going to beat you because this is what you did and you know better. You should have not have done X, Y, and Z. So come and take your punishment. I think that is how a lot of young people should. But again, let's go back. How many young people were guided into parenting? Parenting is not something that people sit down and they tell you anymore what to do and what not to do.
And I think
something that people choose, but there is no guidance basically.
And I think part of the problem is that we have a lot of young parents.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of young parents, and that really compounds the problem. And at times, yes, there are times more seasoned parents, older ones, may not be perfect, but at least they have some experience.
Yeah.
And the inexperience coupled with really a lot of young parents is not being prepared.
But that's a fact. In most cases, a lot of young parents are not prepared, even during the period of gestation, to be a parent because they're lost. Some don't know what to do. Some don't know who to talk to.
Yeah.
But when the child has been born, you hear the normal thing. I went and I make my child. And I usually look up when I hear that phrase because I keep asking them all the time. And when you make your child, who helps you? When you make your child and the problems come, who is there to hold your hand and be with you? When the child is sick and cannot tell you where hurts and the child is just crying and bawling,
Mm-hmm.
what do you do then? One critical pertinent issue which a lot of young people struggle with is something called postpartum syndrome, where after the child is born, you expect the child to go to sleep and the child up crying all night and you don't know what to do. You want to go mad,
Mm-hmm.
basically. But that is the choice you would have made. That's the decision you would have made. Nobody put a gun to your head and tell you, go and get a child. You made that decision yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Whether, whether you thought it through first or you didn't, you know what were the results and the consequences of coitus.
Yeah, and interesting you mentioned because a lot of times, a lot of these little things, right? Again, some parents tell you that their main frustration is when the child cries and they kind of have them be quiet, or the babies they cry, 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 give them whatever they want, whatever thing they want, and they still cry. And out of frustration, they end up shooting the child for.
Yeah?
And it's actually, as much as it may seem to appear to be child's fault, child has something wrong with them, it's actually they're not understanding the child and they really not really connecting with the child and really trying to know what's wrong.
Yeah.
And their frustrations is really getting the better of them. Um, Next, want to touch on the reasons for the moral and social decline of values within our home. Again, not to cut across you too much, but family values are dying. Again, with technology and everyone being secluded, um, the family, the home exists, but the family doesn't exist anymore. What is your take on that?
Um, let me say first that a lot of the moral and social decline in our countries today in the Caribbean
Mm-hmm.
is because of selfishness. You have a lot of families that are around, and this is not location specific. So forgive me if it sounds like that. Early in times gone by, you had the extended family, where people will live and they live and they live in family clusters. There wasn't technology, but they had a network. I remember when I was going to school years ago, we had to pass by this lady's house. Don't remember her name now. And one morning we didn't speak. We didn't say good morning. And we went on to school. Nobody thought anything about it. When we got home, we heard, why didn't you speak to Miss Atwell this morning? There was no telephone, landline.
Mm-hmm.
There was no cell phone,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a network. And the network was because there was the extended family.
Mm-hmm.
Now today, we have television, telephone, cell phone, internet, everything we have. But there's no network
Mm-hmm.
because everybody has gone into their shell when it comes to being a responsible person for every child on the street. I had the privilege of talking to two students from the Sophia Comprehensive School. They didn't know me. I saw one when I pick up two stones to throw at my lawn. I said, excuse me, what are you doing? And he looked at me. I said, put them down. He looked at me. I said, put the stones down. There's no need for you to have stones in your hand. You're going to throw them at him? He put them down, and he went on with his haversack, and he and the other fellow went on. The other fellow went on with his haversack as well. We need to start taking some responsibility for our children. Everybody wants to pass, and they want to, it's not my child, and I don't want the mother to curse me, I don't want the father to curse me, so that's not my business.
Mm-hmm.
No, we have to start taking some responsibility for what we're doing. That particular phrase runs right through our society. If you look at the workplace, you will see it. Oh, she knows what she's supposed to do. It's not my business, so I'm not telling her anything. Who says? You're supposed to be a mentor and coach for your co-worker. Even for your boss, you're supposed to be not a snitch, but a mentor and a coach. Okay? If you look now and you bring it down through the other phases of society, you look and you're on a bus, and the bus driver drives how he feels like he turns up the music. Everybody sits down quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody dares challenging the bus driver because they want to get where they're going. I say no. We all must be responsible and say to him, listen, let me tell you something. You're not driving animals here. You're driving human beings. And if you're going to drive like this, stop, put us out and give us back our money. And they will learn very well how they're supposed to behave. Because if everybody gets out of the bus and they get their money for the journey he's gone on, he's lost the rest of the money. He's not going to do that. Okay? If you see society in all of these phases, you will look and you will see a change if people change a lot of their action and reaction. So the moral declension and the moral decay comes because people have this selfish nature and attitude. It's not my business, so I really don't care. I'm not going to do anything about it. And I keep saying we need to stop that. If a policeman passes me, I say, hey, excuse me, good morning. One morning, I said that to a policeman and he shoots. And he said, that's what you stopped me for? I said, so what is your motto again? To reassure, protect, and serve? So how do you reassure me when you pass me and you act like if I'm not there? He said, well, that's your business. I said, well, let me tell you something, my brother. This is where you can't get information from anybody. Because you need to respect them. And if you respect them simply by saying good morning, if something happens and you go up and you say, did you see what happened? They'll tell you. But if you don't respect them, why should they have any respect for you? So he looked at me and he changed his attitude. I said, but that's your motto. To reassure, serve, and protect. So I told him, if in your capacity, you enhance what is supposed to be your motto, then you will have very little problems finding and achieving your goal. So a lot of our moral decay and declension in society, like I said, is because a lot of people are just selfish. You walk in a store and somebody's on the phone, and as far as they're concerned, you're disturbing me, so you have to wait until I'm finished. Rather than saying, excuse me, somebody's in the store, I'll call you back. Put down the phone, you deal with the customer, and then you go back to what you're doing. No. It must be me, and this is my time, so you got to wait on me. And that is where a lot of the moral declension in society has come from.
So, let us examine a lot of the reasons why we have many single parent families. Again, sadly to say, we do. And whether it's the mother raising the child or the children on her own, and or the father raising the child or the children on his own. What are some of the main reasons that? What are some of the root causes of actually single parent families, of so many of them?
When I hear this topic about single parenting, it really creates a burden because I don't like, really and truthfully, to see or hear about it, but it is there, so we got to deal with it. The issue of single parenting is not a clear-cut case of A or B. In many cases, though, where you find single parenting, it is because of, I don't want to say selfishness, but it's because of the choices that people will make. Okay? So you see a guy and you think, oh, he's fantastic. Okay, he carries you out and he behaves very well. But you don't check his background. You don't look to see how he behaves when he's at his workplace or with his friends or when he goes to church. But you believe, something, I'll just drop my anchor, drop my shields and place all my trust in him. And then, when the ultimate happens, and you expect that he will be there for you, he picks up and runs because he was never prepared himself for it. In addition, he doesn't know how to handle it. So his idea is, you see me, I'm finished with that.
Right.
And then a whole lot of consequences can come out, family court and this and
It's a ripple effect.
And this is why I've always said, even though men bear a lot of responsibility, women need to bear even more. I have heard the phrase at a wedding, and this is why I say women need to bear even more responsibility. I asked a lady, why are brides late? And the retort was, but if he loved me, he will wait. So I asked her, so why can't we apply the same thing to relationships? If you love me, why can't you wait? Why must you come around to quote unquote sample as though I'm a cake? An egg and you want to taste. And she said, but that's interesting. I said, but I'm just basing it off of your philosophy. You have said, if the bridegroom loves you, he will wait until you come. But he's made the commitment, he's there, the guests are there, he has all the rings there, but you keep everybody in waiting because you want to prove if he loves you. And I've said, if some men were like me, you get a rude awakening.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you come late, you will hear me going to the reception. And you will come to the reception and we'll get married and then we can continue eating and drinking. So I think that in a lot of cases, even though it's not simple and clear cut,
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of cases, people need to have patience with relationships. A lot of patience. You have to think about the choices you are making. You can never fully find out the true character of somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Because as we grow older, a guy said this morning, not as he grows older, but as he grows more mature. So as we mature more, you will then see some true elements coming out in some people. We believe, a lot of people, I shouldn't say we, a lot of people in our society believe, oh, but if I don't have sex with you, I wouldn't know you, and I wouldn't know what you're capable of. And I say to them, but if that's going to be the basis for a relationship, then you might as well shut the shop. Because a relationship is supposed to be based on respect, trust, love, confidence. All of these things a relationship is supposed to be based on. So it's not, if you love me, let me see. It is, I love you, so I will wait and I will walk the journey with you. It is not, if you love me, you will give in. No, it is, I love you, so I will have patience and we will do things together. And I've said, if you watch carefully a lot of established relationships that have been going strong, they are based and founded on quote unquote love. Not love as in intimacy, but love as in long term, seeing this is who I want to be
Commitment.
years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
So the commitment is there, the uh, the stickability, if you want to call it that, is there, the submission is there.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah.
no longer this thing of, um,
Holding
I'll
back.
give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I may be going out and I go and press a shirt and I put it on. And my wife says to me, I don't like that shirt, press another one. And I just take it off and press another one. And one day she said, don't you know that when you step out, you're a reflection of this family? So you have to look a certain way as far as I'm concerned when you go out. Now, there's some men would tell you, I don't see nothing wrong with my clothes, I don't press on another shirt. So do you really love that person? When you want to go your own selfish way and do what you want to do, rather than making sure that when you leave home, your partner is happy and she has all the trust and confidence in you. You want to be slave and master mentality, You can't tell me what to do, that's my shirt. I don't see anything wrong with it, excuse me. If your relationship is going to be like that, you're going to have a very stormy relationship. I've always said, and I've said to a lot of men, unlike men, women don't forget. Women don't forget. You do something that displeases a woman, 10 years she will remind you. You think I forget when you did so and so? So I think we need to be careful. We need to pay attention to one another's needs, one another's likes and dislikes, and we need to have a lot of patience with each other in terms of building a solid relationship, and then it will go far.
Yeah, because a lot of reasons why, again, a reflection of what you said, we have a lot of single parent families. There's one, the partners who they committed to, and I guess mother or father of the child chose wrongly, and the relationship wasn't strong enough for the child to come in and balance the boat. The boat fell apart before
Yeah. Yep.
the person came on board. And as much as who may not think that's the case, but it actually starts from there.
It's,
So
yeah.
again, that's really a sign that people have to choose well, and those who undergo the company having a child, whether it's planned or unplanned, doesn't really matter. You have a child, you have a child. You have to be mindful of the person that you allow to even make that a possibility.
Yeah.
Put it in better terms, right? You have to be very, very mindful of that. And going full circle, so again, that is a lot of these are a lot of the reasons why we have single parent families. And yes, we know some people they pull out and some people cheat. We know all that side of the argument. But a lot of times is the other parent that is not ready.
But I have also said, if you have a partner and you really love your partner and you really please your partner in return returns all of that. They love you and they will please you at a level that you would never even think about. So
Mm-hmm.
when I hear about people who cheat and all this kind of thing, I keep asking myself, are you giving your partner 100% of yourself? Is your partner giving you 100%? Because if both are giving 100%, I can't see you where you would see somebody else and want to think, let me rush to deal with that person rather than staying with who you've committed to. So I think in a lot of cases, it has to be where there is some sort of blemish in terms of, I don't know, let's say in terms of not being satisfied and not talking to your partner
Yeah,
about not being
communication.
satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people, and let me make this statement clear. The reason why I say that is that a lot of people are not happy and comfortable with their own sexuality.
Mm.
When I say sexuality, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of people who live together and their partners never see them naked because in a lot of those cases, their partners are not comfortable with themselves. If you cohabitate or you live together
Mm-hmm.
and you had a shower, why would you want to hide from your partner or your wife or your
Yeah.
spouse?
Mm.
Is it because that you're not comfortable with letting them see what you naturally look like?
Mm.
And I find that this is one of the reasons why you get a lot of people who go and they stray because they're not comfortable. But then they may find somebody who may make them appreciate that they are really beautiful,
Mm.
and then they start to get comfortable with themselves. I think this is where a lot of people need some coaching. The other issue is one where how often will you tell your partner, I love you? I really mean it. Not just say it because you know it's good to, and pleasant for the ears, but say it because you really mean it. You know, I say to people, yeah, you and your partner live together, whether you're married or not, and your spouse or your partner comes home. How often would you do something that you think the person would appreciate? Not necessarily cooking food, but it could be a back rub. It could be rubbing the person's head. It could be giving them a foot bath. It could be giving them a cuddle. But again, I ask the question, are we comfortable with ourselves that we can do this and please our other partners? Again, it goes back to choices, and again, it goes back to getting guidance and being informed about a lot of things.
So the problem here goes deep, and the problem is actually deeper than just what appears on the surface, which is
That's right.
a single parent.
That's
So
right.
again, it goes back to the relationship and what that relationship was actually built upon.
Yeah.
So again, parents, listeners, those who are hearing me right now, those who are hearing my voice from whatever part of St. Lucia, whatever part of the world that you are in currently, listening, you need to be aware of that. And that is a wake up call to really check your relationships, people. If it's not the right one, move on. If you don't see yourself, those who are single do not join. Having a child of that person, don't stay. You are wasting your time. And those who have children and are in relationships that are not very good, check those relationships and check what is value, whether it's worth correcting or just cutting the cord and moving
That's
on.
it. That's it.
Now, I want to ask you about what do you think that the ideal rules would be for children staying out late? Again, we know that boys and girls are always treated differently. And what do you think? How do you think should they be treated?
How do you think they should be?
How do you think they, for example, with the different ages,
Uh-huh.
how much freedom do you think that they ought to be given? What is a healthy amount of freedom?
Um, that's not clear cut either, but one of the things you need to do is look into the backgrounds of their peers or their friends.
Mm.
And that tells you a lot. Children have the ability to link with other children who are like minded.
Yeah.
So, for instance, you will have children who will like to go to church. And they will tell, oh, but so and so comes to church, and so comes to church, and so comes to church, and so is in the choir, and so, is a server. When you look at that, is it the kind of platform that you like or would like for your child? And I think this is where we need to make a lot of evaluations. How many parents at the end of the school day, when they see their children, how are you, sweetheart? How was your day at school? What did you do at school? What did you and your friends do today? Most parents don't have time. Most parents don't have time. You understand? Most parents do not have time for that. And I think that this is where we've gone adrift a lot in our society. Are we going to take the time to nurture a relationship? You know? You only have to look at one position where you invite some of their friends home at you and see how they behave. And then you will know what kind of freedom you need to allow them. One of the other things I always believe in is that we should give children rewards when they do well. So, okay, not only academically, but if you've done well, let's say, by going to church, you've done well by doing your homework, you've done well by behaving on the street, because everybody says, oh, your daughter or your son, I always like to see them, they dress so well, they behave so well on the street, they speak to you and that sort of thing. These are the kind of environments that you look and you tend to want to say, you know what? Because I've heard so and so about you from so many people, here's your reward for today. It doesn't necessarily have to be a phone. It doesn't necessarily have to be something technological. It can be something as easy as giving them a treat going for ice cream.
Yep.
It can be a little treat carrying for a drive, and when you finish going for a drive, you give them something to eat or something of this sort. But I think that we need to look at a scheme like that, where, especially when they've done very, very well, there is a reward for being outstanding. Not only, as I said, academics, but in terms of behavior overall.
So, let's look at the issue of exercise. And we know that there are myriad health problems, and especially younger ones, especially because of technology and the use and abuse of it. Again, that's subjective. Do you think that parents, especially when the children are young, should force them to do at least a bit of exercise, but it's a little walking, make sure you take them along with you? Should it be something that you really impress upon them in an effort to have them keep the habit when they grow older?
Children naturally are full of energy.
Yeah.
We used to be that way too. But what I find is that a lot of adults, they want to restrict children from being energetic. You see a parent and a child, sit down there and don't move. Or sit down and keep quiet. And I always tell them, why do you want to do that? When you were at that stage, you were full of energy. All that has happened is, when we become grown, we don't have the energy they have, so we're not able to cope. I think in a lot of kids, I'll give you a perfect example. On mornings, there are a lot of children who go walk to school, but they catch the bus to go to school. Have you ever asked why? Have you ever asked why? I'll tell you why. We have now developing a culture where we do not want our boys to smell bad, to be sweaty.
Mm-hmm.
We do not want them to have a little spot in their shirt.
Mm-hmm.
We want them to be prim and proper, so to speak. And I have said, I don't care what nobody says. Boys have a different temperament to girls. And I will tell you this. Look at a girl. This is why I have said, and I continue to say, I oppose co-education as it is. I will take co-education where you have single-sex classrooms.
Repeat that. What kind of education?
Co-education.
Oh, yes.
I will take co-education where there are single-sex classrooms. If you do that experiment, you will see boys will do a lot better. Because boys tend to strive and fight when they're together with boys. Everybody wants to see who can come first. Everybody wants to see who can come in the top ranks. When you put them with girls, you're looking for a lot of trouble. And anybody who wants to challenge that, you can challenge me. The scientific facts have been proven and they're there. Girls develop faster than boys. They develop differently to boys.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas girls, when they are raised in a cultured environment. They sit and they play with dolls. They put on makeup on dolls. They put on dolls' clothes.
Yeah.
Boys are raised in an environment where they're playing football, they're playing cricket, they're playing rough, active sports, contact sports. When you look at these two backgrounds and you put two of them together in a classroom, tell me, Craig, who is likely to do better? Not the girls that are accustomed sitting down and concentrating on what they do. So I'm saying to all of the people who think that is not positive, have single-sex classrooms and prove me wrong.
Interesting you say so because St. Mary's College knows boys.
Single-sex school?
St. Joseph Convent.
Single-sex school?
Interesting there actually. I would say not say the top two, but two of the top schools on island.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting you mentioned that fact. So that could be a reason, especially the scientific
But I'm telling you, it is there.
the scientific data to support. That may be a very interesting fact to actually support why they actually do very well.
I am not saying to throw away co-educational totally. What I'm saying is, let us see how we can reform it and have single-sex classrooms within a co-educational environment where you have both boys and girls together. I was told by a tutor at St. Lucia that if you check regularly, the girls are in the classroom learning and the fellas out in the corridors gambling.
Yeah.
So, prove me wrong. My point I maintain is that if it's an experiment, you have to look to constantly adjust and adapt to find the correct mix. I'm not saying that, go back to single-sex schools. I'm not saying that at all. Because if you look at those who are in single-sex schools, when they merge and they go into the environment at St. Louis, a lot of them struggled. A lot of them struggled.
I've seen some of it for son.
They have not been in a co-educational environment before.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if you have single-sex classrooms, it is going to be different. I remember speaking to a teacher, and he taught at Henderson's College, which is one of our quote-unquote senior top schools in Barbados. It's really not a top school, but they send all the top achievers there. And he said he came into class this day after lunch, for the first period after lunch, and he saw the shirt hanging up by the window. And he said, whose shirt is that? And this boy jumped up and he put up his hand. He said, mine, sir. He was wearing a vest. He said, where's your shirt hanging up? I washed it, sir. Why do you wash your shirt? It was dirty, sir. He said, but you should have thought about that before you went playing. Put it back on. It is wet, sir. Put it on. And he said he put it on. And all the other guys in the class laughed. Because what happened is the shirt had a couple dirty spots on it. And because they were white and gray in the senior forms. So he wanted to impress the girls, that his shirt was clean. And this is why I keep saying, let us deal with the single-sex classroom environment. I remember I used to go to school, and yeah, our shirts were white. But the time we used to get to school, we didn't have a choice because we lived in the middle of the bus route. So you had to catch an early bus, or when you get school late, you have late detention, and late detention is compulsory. There's no escaping late detention. For no reason, you can get late detention. So we didn't want late detention, so we would catch a bus that would leave the destination at 6:30. It would get to us about 6:45, and we'd get school about 7:15. And we would play football and cricket until 9:15, and then go look for a towel and dry up the sweat. Put on, you had your shirt hung up by a tree, you take off your on the shirt, and you put up your shirt. Because it wasn't, at that time, it wasn't, well, it was an all-boys school for the junior school. But the sixth formers, there were a mix between girls and boys. But what I'm saying is that you cannot allow this thing to creep in where you do not want our boys to be hard and be boys. And you want them, they don't want to play football, they don't want to play cricket,
Yeah,
because they don't want to be dirty and sweaty smelling, so the girls come and, tell them,
because
you want
I am a physical education teacher myself, and I see that. I'm like,
but I'm telling you.
I see that. I'm like, wow.
I'm telling you.
I see that. I'm like, wow. The boys really, some of them are very timid. I'm like, I mean, we have different personalities, but the majority of them are very timid, and
You don't want to run?
yeah, and that may not always be their fault, though. It may be who's nurturing them, but still, they should be a bit more expressive than that. I
But that's what I'm
find.
saying. Even if it's who's nurturing you, the environment should be as such that when you get to school, you throw away that until you leave school.
Yeah.
I've spoken to a female teacher and I've asked her, why can't the boys walk to school on morning from Soufriere Town up to Soufriere Comprehensive School?
Yeah, it's not that far.
And she told me? Oh, when they get school, they're going to be sweaty and they're not going to smell good. I said, really? And you talking about healthy lifestyles? You can't be talking about healthy lifestyles, right? She said, but, I mean, come in class, I said, no, but if you want the boys to be healthy, let them walk. Let them, encourage them to walk. There's no healthier exercise than walking. But no, there's this thing that they wouldn't smell good. I don't know where it came from, because I don't know any exercise where you exercise and you sweat, and your sweat smells like perfume. So I think in a lot of cases, we need to allow a lot of our children a little bit more liberty in being full of energy and allowing them to burn off some of that energy.
Yeah, and the matter of exercise, again, is just a matter of wearing proper deodorant.
That's all.
I mean, people have exercised and played sports since way back when, and
Yeah.
they all don't smell. So again, a slight misplaced
You need
facts
to
there.
coach them and mentor them about different things that they need to do for their hygiene, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't see this thing of saying, oh, you're going to be sweaty, so don't walk. Catch a bus and come. No, you're talking about healthy lifestyles. If you check a lot of these statistics, I'm certain that over 50% of our young people who are obese or overweight. Because you can be slightly overweight. If you're 20 pounds, you're overweight.
Yeah.
But then if you
technically
go
you
more
are.
than that, then you become obese. And when you look at it, a lot of it is due to inactivity. I remember when Tevin Shepherd was going to for a comprehensive school, and Tevin was big. Now look at Tevin today. Because up to this morning I saw him running. Up to this morning or yesterday morning. I think it was yesterday morning. I saw him running from Canaries, literally coming up Belvedere. Now, if he was allowed to do that when he was going to school, he never would have gotten that size. So I think in a lot of cases, it is when they leave school and they realize, if I don't do something, I will be in trouble. So let me exercise.
Yeah.
And ironically, when you look at the women that go exercising, they go walking on evenings and early mornings. But the fellas don't want to be ridiculed by them, so they keep quiet.
Interesting. And the final question I have to ask for this evening. Again, this is it's a deep topic actually. The final question, again, speaking of the school, is what measures do you think schools can put in place, can use to really better cater to children, students with social issues at home. Again, I know we have
There is,
counseling.
there is no one size fit all
Mm-hmm.
solution for that. But again, I will mention that I've always thought that if you have more service groups and more people oriented into those service groups,
Mm-hmm.
and if those service groups are part of the curriculum,
Service groups such as.
then you will see a difference. You have scouts, you have cadets, you
Ah,
have
okay.
Leo Club, you have a whole host of them. 4-H, you can mention a whole host of them, and they're not just for secondary school. They have a lot of them for the primary
Mm-hmm.
and the kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
If you take it, I don't remember the name of the one for St. Lucia, but I need to look it up so I can tell you next time I come. There is, right now, in some of the Caribbean territories, there is a pre-brownie group. I know in Barbados they call it blossoms.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll be a blossom, you'll be a brownie, you'll be a girl guide, you'll be a master guide.
Mm-hmm.
Scouts, I forget what they call them. Scouts. They call them beavers. You'll be a beaver, you'll be a cub scout, you'll be a scout, and you'll be a venture scout. Right? So what I'm saying is they have gone ahead and they have cultured it to start them a little earlier than where they used to start them before. They're starting them now from kindergarten. Right? Now if you put this as part of the curriculum, let's say on Fridays, you tell all the students, now you have a choice. You choose one of these groups. You can put theater arts, you can put music, you can put choir, you can put scouts, you can put guides, you can put cadets, you can put 4-H, Leo Club. You
Mm-hmm.
understand what I'm from? You can put it as part of the curriculum. You can say they need to do a certain amount of hours in each one, and you can give them credits if you want when you're doing your marking schedules,
Mm-hmm.
because they would have gone to that, they would have learned either a skill or a saving skill or something of this sort.
Mm-hmm.
But what it does, it enhances the disciplinary aspect of the individual's life. Take, for instance, you go to Edinburgh Awards. You go on hikes most of the times. And you have to go and complete that hike. It's a survival hike most of the time. So what needs to happen is we need to look and see if we can refocus and get this as part of the curriculum rather than having it as an option that you can go and do cadets. Because I don't think that if you told me on a Friday afternoon after lunch that I could go to do scouts or cadet, I would go and do that. I would go and do that because it gives me the chance to get away from the blackboard
Yeah.
and the classroom and to go and do something a little more creative. At the same time, for the school, it provides a little bit of downtime for the teachers that they can sit, they can review, they can do whatever they want. But the thing is that you would have the service groups organized in such a way people use them now to do something differently. So if you're going to do theater arts, if you're going to do dancing, whatever, you know that for those 2 periods on Fridays, this is what we do, so we come to do it. You would have to find a way though to showcase the talent when you finish, so that
Yeah.
it is not just going to do that, but this whole entire school can see the talent that is there.
Yeah, because
Then it will
I
encourage them on.
I believe students need other avenues to express themselves, to develop themselves, to grow, other than just the chalk, the board, and the talk.
Yeah.
Again, there's more to a student. Yes, we all need the academic instruction. We all need the subject to learn the subject material.
Mhm.
However, there are many more modes of learning, discipline, service
Mhm.
that the child has to get, the child has to give,
Yes.
and that is of very high importance. And it's actually one of the real reason, well, the lack of it is one of the real reasons why children get lost.
Yeah.
Again, yes, sometimes some students are in school and really they just don't know why they're there, right? Why am I doing this? Just come to school the entire day, sit down, do nothing else. Some of them skip class. Of course, there are other reasons why I skip class. But sometimes a lot of them, they're just lost. And especially when we have a curriculum that doesn't um, cater to all the learning styles of children,
Right.
they really get lost in that. And we have to know how to reach the children better. And we have more opportunities have to be offered to the children so that they can really tap into their potential
Yeah,
and begin to develop and blossom as unique individuals.
yeah. I'll give you a perfect example. A child can go to cadets, and in cadets, you learn the discipline of shooting. Notice I said the discipline. And you will rarely find children who go to cadets and learn the discipline of shooting. Just pick up a gun willingly and shoot somebody because they're trained and they're taught the responsibility of handling a weapon like that.
Mhm.
Granted, it might be a rifle they may give you, but eventually you get around to using a sidearm.
Mhm.
So I'm saying is that you can see the merits in systems like these.
Yeah.
And the more you use systems like these, the more people will have an appreciation for discipline. You have a lot of, I can't say the Anglican and the Catholic churches, but
Mhm.
you have a lot of Pentecostal churches where you have a quote unquote sound engineer. So why is sound engineering not being offered as a specialty on any curriculum? Because this is something now that is expanding.
Mhm.
Because more and more you see a lot of the Pentecostal churches that are coming up and they invest a lot of money in buying sound equipment because they
Mhm.
understand the need for it. So now you need to have people now who are trained. So when you hear, for instance, somebody who's behind a soundboard, who's a
Mhm.
sound technician, I can bet you that person will not misuse a radio in their car because they understand that they're fashioning music. So in a lot of these things, we have you have a photography club.
Mhm.
People go and they learn a lot of the discipline of photography because photography is really discipline. When people come with phones these days and they come to take a picture, you don't know anything about discipline. Because if I tell you about f-stop 3.5 and I tell you about depth of field, you don't know about these kind of things. You
Yeah.
just take out your thing and flex.
Yeah, it's
If
an
you go
actual
into the
profession.
discipline of professional photography,
Mhm.
then you understand clearly your responsibility with a tool like a camera in your hand.
Mhm. Yep.
So in a lot of these extra activities, you have a lot of merit. What we don't see is that it is the platform to provide a lot of discipline for our young people. What we
Yes.
see is, oh, I don't have to go and learn that. I can just take up my camera and I can just take up my phone and I can take a picture. Or take up my iPad or take up my Samsung tablet and take a picture.
Mhm.
But taking a picture with one of those is like chalk and cheese getting behind the real lens and
Yep.
doing the real thing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of merit
Yes.
in systems like that.
Mhm. Yes. Very, very interesting discussion, people. A lot has been said. There is a lot, there is still a lot to be said, though. And for that reason, I'd like to invite Mrs. Seale back on. We have a lot more to discuss. For this evening, Mrs. Seale, I'd like to thank you for appearing as a guest on Youth on the Rise.
You're welcome.
I'm sure the listeners are very appreciative of the wisdom that you've bestowed upon them. A lot of tips were mentioned here. We went through how to deal with corporal punishment, foundational values that should be instilled in children. We differentiated between foster parents, adopted children. We looked at and really focused on single parent families and the reasons why that exists and how to prevent that from happening to you. We looked at rules for children. Again, again, that is relative, but really focus on that. And really, there will be a part two to this talk for sure. Listeners, we love to say the youth are the future of tomorrow. I mean, that's gotten cliched by now. But the parents are now, and they heavily impact the future. And if we do not cater to them, if we do not instruct them properly, whether they're young, whether they're old, whether it's planned, whether it's unplanned, doesn't make a difference. We are already failing the youth and ourselves as well. So, any last words, Mrs. Hill?
I just want to say if anybody wants any more information, the book is available at any online bookstore.
Oh, yes. And the title, people, is Choices Making an.
Informed
In,
decision on parenting.
yeah.
Um, it's available in both in ebook, which is soft copy, and in paperback. Any online bookstore, Amazon, books, Barnes and Noble, any one of them. You can you can go and you can find it there. I also want to say be prepared because early next year we intend to launch a parenting program where I'm just formulating all of the syllabus and I'm trying to see how soon we can start to recruit some facilitators. We don't want to be selfish in this project. We're going to have some facilitators who will teach in different locations. The parenting program is going to be about 48 contact hours. When I say 48 contact hours, it means that you will be required to do 48 full hours face to face. We don't have any online classes as yet. It will not be boring because we're only going to have the sessions are going to be 2 hours per session and it's going to be twice per week. I am fully aware that people have different concentration spans. And after hard at work, you may not want to come and sit down for more than 2 hours. Really and truthfully, I wouldn't even advise it because teaching is one of the things that it has to be interactive.
Yeah.
It can maybe go on for more than 2 hours if you want it to, but it will not detract from the actual syllabus. If it goes 2.5 hours, you can't say that you did 2.5 hours. It will still be counted as 2 hours because obviously more would have come out it than the facilitator would have want. But I just want to say, that is coming, the parenting program. When I get it all together, then we'll start to tell you exactly how you can actually acquire the information that you can register and you can do it. It's going to be pretty interesting. It is not going to be long and boring. And if you register for the program, I can assure you that a book will be part of the package. So when you register, you automatically will get a book. And when you come to class, the facilitator, obviously, they will set out what they're going to do. They may make you read from the book a little, but they will not be, it's going to be very interactive. So some of the material they will teach you will come from the book. The rest you will have to go home and you'll read the book and you'll learn as you go along. And as you see new things and new perspectives, hopefully yours will change.
So, Mr. Seale, if anyone's listening and they would like to contact you, they would like to find out a bit more about your course and generally your book and the advice that you have to offer in general, give them a number to reach you.
The number right now is 287-2554. That is 287-2554. For those out of state, it would be 758 as the area code. And if you want to reach me by email, it is abejeh, abejeh, @gmail.com. abejeh@gmail.com. You can forward any questions, any information that you want to get, and I assure you that I'll respond to all of them.
And although I forgot to mention in my introduction, but Mrs. Seale is actually president of the...
Suffolk Secondary Comprehensive School PTA.
Yes. Okay. So, listeners, this has been a very interesting segment. I encourage you to give us some support, give the station, give the show some support. Check us out on Facebook, our page, Youth on the Rise. Check us out on YouTube as well. The videos come on there. And share it. Okay, all of us need to have access to such information. All of us need the opportunity. All of us really need the opportunity to share and learn from each other. Because as a society, that's how we are really going to change. That's how we are going to make a difference, not just to ourselves, but to others as well. Okay, again, Mr. Seale, I'd like to thank you. And listeners, I'd like to thank you for listening as well. Again, this evening has been a very good segment, an extended one at that. I'd like to thank you for listening, everybody. Stay tuned for next week's show, which is promised to be interesting as well. Good evening, everybody, and goodbye.
Have a good evening.